my friends, I am the Dungeon Tutor. Welcome! Today we're answering another question for RPGaDay. And today's question is the 18th, because it's the 18th of August. Today's question is this: what's your favorite game system? This should be possibly a different video for every person, but unfortunately, because of the confluence of role-playing games, you're going to get an awful lot of people who are waxing about how much they love Dungeons and Dragons. Whichever edition they started with, odds are. Old school gamers are probably, love Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, or 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, or 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. You're going to get a lot of that. Dungeons and Dragons is a great system. It is not my favorite system, but it's a good one. It's one that my players all enjoy tremendously. That rush of endorphins when you hit the feeder bar and level up. It's a great feeling. Get to look forward to all these new powers and spells and abilities. Cool. It's not my favorite game system. It's not even on the top 5. So we're just going to put that there. My all-time favorite game system is actually divided. And it's not a cop-out. It's just simply that I believe that any good game designer should believe their game is the best. It has something that speaks to something inside of themselves that made them make it. I have a game. It's not out. It's called Soul of the City. And I believe it is the greatest role-playing game that exists. Despite the fact that nobody else but me and a few other people know about it. Because it is, in my mind, the ultimate role-playing game. It lets you do anything, including concepts that really haven't been done in role-playing games before. Soul of the City is about taking on the personality and temper and direction of a city, a settlement. From as small as a little village to a great metropolis, to an entire nation, to an entire planet. You can scale it however you want. And you basically are the consciousness of that city. If you go from one city to another, everyone feels a little different. There's something you look forward to. There's a certain spark that's... If you go to New York City versus Los Angeles, they don't feel the same. Yes, they have big buildings. Yes, they have lots of people. But there's something about the character that is different. And that character is made up of all the different people and places within. And I think that's important. But I haven't seen a lot. I've seen, kingdom simulators and things like that. But this, to me, is a little bit different. And through the course of the game, you use those assets the city has and the people within it to overcome obstacles and hardships. The beauty of it is, as I said, you can scale it up. You can also scale it down. You can take it from the city level, or town level, whatever, to a individual character level. It can also be a full-on role-playing game, fully functional, where you can play in pretty much any genre. The tools are right there to use. And, yeah, if I ever can get it out, I think people will like it. And that has to be my favorite because I made it, right? It scratches my itch. It would do everything that I wanted to do. And, unfortunately, though, the thing that has killed my enthusiasm on it, to develop it, is the more role-playing games I learn about, the more systems I find that are too similar. Now, that's not an impediment because systems can't be copyrighted, but I'd hate to be the person who'd be accused of having no imagination. I came up with this in the year 2014 before I'd heard about, but I've never understood or read the rules for something like Savage Worlds. And certainly never learned about other oddball games. There's one called Arcanus Feudalis that uses a die steps down system like mine. My game, basically, everything has a value, and that value is represented by a die value. So if you are not very good at something, perhaps very poor at something, if you want to try to do something using that skill or ability, you roll a 4-sided die. Or if you're really good at something, you might roll an 8-sided die or a 10-sided die. And that applies to everything. Your gear, your personal trait and any skills that you have. You use dice to represent those. You take the highest die value. There's rules. I'm not going to go over the whole thing now, but I think it's a really good game, and I think people will really enjoy it if I ever can finish it. It used to be called Dice File, but something about that sounded kind of a little gross, like a person who's romantically involved with their dice. And while I believe that loving dice is fine, file is just not the term to use that kind of love as I was thinking of. That's more romantic love. And eventually I renamed the system the Spotlight system, which is the core of my Soul of the City game, and I think it's pretty good. The way you use the dice are different in my game than any other that I've seen, so I'm pretty proud of it. And yes, I need to work on it some more. So stay tuned. Maybe you'll get more about my Soul of the City. And if you were interested, I'd love if you left a comment about it. That would be fantastic. But favorite current system. There is one, and yeah, I find things that I enjoy about all the different systems that I meet, which is why I love collecting and getting into new game systems. Even if I don't get a chance to play it, I learn more and I grow with what I can do with games. But at its heart, one of the earliest games that I ever came across is still my favorite game. I have not supplanted it with anything else, even if I never get to run this game, really. And that is Steve Jackson's GURPS. If you watch my videos, I will wax fondly about just what GURPS can do, all of the cool stuff and how well it's laid out, and all of the books that support it are really good. And, okay, not all of them are great, but all of them are at least solid. And with the game, with a very simple concept, it's not a complicated game, despite the reputation it may have. It's a very simple concept. Roll 3 six-sided dice and compare it to your skill after modifying with any other modifiers. And if you roll under it, you succeed. If you roll over it, you fail. It's not hard. If you roll under it by 10 or more, it's a critical success, or if you roll 3. If you roll an 18 or 10 more than what you needed, it's a critical failure. It's very simple. Not hard at all. So, yeah, I do love GURPS. As far as systems go, I think it's one of the finest. There are some things that it does not do well, unless you do a lot of heavy lifting. It doesn't do a wild, abstract combat game like Dungeons & Dragons. Now, they made a whole dungeon fantasy so that it could. It's called Dungeon Fantasy. It's a box set. It's really well made. And it allows you to play Dungeons & Dragons style dungeon crawling. Because combat is actually very dangerous to partake in normal GURPS. And you try to only get into the fights you have to do if you want your characters to live long and not lose limbs and the like. Because the possibility of getting maimed is sometimes just as bad as dying. And it can all happen in GURPS. So, yeah, it's a great system. I love it. There's so many games that would work really well with GURPS. But I'm a lover of a lot of different game systems. So it's not the only one that I run. As a matter of fact, I almost never run it. Even though I dearly love the system, I appreciate the design that went into it, all the way from when it started out as the fantasy trip, and then just evolved. More role-playing elements got added to it. The character creation became better and more involved and such. A lot of respect for Steve Jackson and his game design. And I think that is the finest game that I have ever come across. Very first copy I got back in 1990. It was the 3rd edition of GURPS, and I still have that book today. And, yeah, I do love it. I do have the 4th edition, by the way. I know they tried to streamline it. I still kind of like 3rd edition a little bit better, but it's okay. It's okay. I just like the way that they dealt with armor better back in the day, where your armor both protected you from taking a blow. It had passive defense, so that a blow might not even really hit you enough to hurt you. And then if it did hit you, then it had to get through your damage reduction, which the two different things that armor does, basically. It helps you to shed off blows, and it also, if you're going to get hit, it lessens the impact. And I thought it represented that fantastically. Well, they've kind of done away with that now. But still, it's fine. GURPS, great system. I can't recommend it enough. If you never come across GURPS, maybe I recommend giving it a read. I think they usually have some sort of free to try thing on their website, or most games do, and I would be surprised if GURPS didn't. And if you do love the fantasy hack and slash style, Dungeon Fantasy is really good. It's got all the character templates so that you can make a character quickly and jump into it, but the characters can be as deep and as rich as you want to make them, with all kinds of interesting skills to pack in to flesh out the character more than your common game will. Something like a Dungeons and Dragons that primarily 99% of it is combat related, just doesn't do that fleshing out quite as well as something like GURPS. So, that's my spiel. I hope you've enjoyed it. I am the Dungeon Tutor. If you enjoy this kind of talk and you want to hear more about things like Soul of the City or the other games that I love, and believe me, when I start making videos, I'm going to be talking about these other games, and I'm going to be doing reviews on them, and I'm going to be discussing game concepts and how they work and why, looking under the hood. I've got so many ideas and plans, so I hope you enjoy this enough that you want to see more. If so, like and subscribe, and notify yourself when I get more videos out. They will be coming, I promise you that, barring unforeseen circumstances. But if you know somebody else who's looking for a cool game, and maybe this GURPS thing sounds interesting, feel free to share the video so that I can pitch it to them as well. It could be a fun ride. But I do hope that you come back for more videos, because I enjoy talking to as many people as possible about games and gaming and getting them excited about it. And that's really what this RPGaDay thing is all about. But I hope that you come to see more. And if you do, I hope that between that time and now, you get a chance to roll some dice, play some games, have some fun. Stay safe out there, my friends. Until that next time, farewell.